Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Martin, and nothing in life could have braced me for the moment my 16-year-old daughter looked me in the eye and said she wished I were dead. What began as a simple phone call about birthday presents spiraled into a moment that broke me to my core, shattering everything I believed about our bond and pushing me toward one of the hardest parenting choices I'd ever face. To explain how we ended up there, I need to go back years earlier, back to when my marriage to Linda, Ruby's mother, first began unraveling. We had been married for a decade, raising our daughter Ruby. When the tension in our home grew heavier with each passing day, I was working as an accountant at a mid-sized firm, chasing stability and trying to support my family. But after a few years, our finances started slipping. Linda worked part-time as a pharmacy technician, though her irregular hours and modest pay barely made a dent in our budget. Debt piled up, the mortgage became overwhelming, and daily expenses stretched us thin. The stress seeped into every corner of our marriage. I pushed myself to work longer hours, taking on extra clients just to cover bills. That meant being home less, something Linda resented deeply, even though she knew I was doing it for us. She accused me constantly of prioritizing work over family, of leaving Ruby without a father, as if I enjoyed being absent. But in truth, I had no choice. We were drowning in overdue bills. Our credit was crumbling, and every day I felt like I was failing as a provider. Her criticism only magnified my guilt. I was trapped. If I worked more, I wasn't there for my family. If I worked less, we couldn't survive financially. And in the middle of that impossible balance, Linda began changing in ways I couldn't ignore. She started going out more, supposedly with friends, or on errands that took far longer than necessary. Her phone became a secret, calls taken in another room, texts answered only when I wasn't nearby. She bought clothes we couldn't afford, got her hair done regularly, and paid more attention to her appearance than she had in years. When I asked, she snapped that she deserved to feel good about herself. But I couldn't shake my doubts. The distance between us widened. She grew critical of everything I did, bitter about our financial struggles, and uninterested in working together as partners. Instead of facing life's hardships side by side, it felt like she blamed me entirely and was searching elsewhere for happiness. Ruby was only 9 then, old enough to feel the tension, but too young to make sense of it. She'd ask why Mommy and Daddy argued so much, or why I was always gone. I tried to reassure her that things would be okay, but even I wasn't convinced. The truth finally came out in the most crushing way. I found text messages on Linda's phone. Intimate, romantic messages revealing she'd been seeing someone for months. They even talked about leaving me so she could be with him. When I confronted her, she denied it first, then minimized it, and finally lashed out at me for snooping. She claimed she wouldn't have strayed if I'd been a better husband, if I'd spent more time at home, if I'd paid attention to her. She twisted her betrayal into my fault. That was when I knew our marriage was over. Between financial strain, her affair, and the complete collapse of trust, there was nothing left to salvage. I asked for a divorce. She admitted she'd been considering the same thing, but I wasn't prepared for how vicious the divorce would become. While I wanted a civil ending, Linda hired a ruthless lawyer and threw every accusation possible at me. She painted me as an absent father obsessed with work, emotionally detached, and responsible for creating a hostile home. She downplayed her affair as just emotional support and worked hard to twist the narrative against me. The legal battle dragged on for over a year, endless court dates, mediation, and bills I could barely afford. Linda fought for primary custody of Ruby, alimony, and as much of our assets as possible. Her tactic was clear: destroy my reputation as a father so she could take everything. During that time, Ruby lived mostly with her mother. When she visited me, she repeated Linda's words, making me the villain in every version of our family story. I would lie awake at night, my heart aching as my daughter slipped further away, her view of me shaped by lies. I wanted to shield her, to protect her from the poison, but I couldn't fight Linda's influence alone. It was a silent kind of suffering, the kind no one could see, but it weighed on me constantly. Ruby would ask why I'd been so mean to her mom, or why I didn't love our family enough to stay. I tried to explain gently, in ways a child could understand, but it was nearly impossible without sounding like I was speaking against her mother. Eventually, the divorce was finalized. As I feared, Linda got primary custody. I was ordered to pay significant child support, which I accepted because Ruby's needs mattered most. I was granted visitation, some weekends and holidays, but not nearly the time I longed for. What stung most was knowing Ruby now lived under the same roof as Linda and the man she betrayed me with. Meanwhile, I was reduced to a weekend father who mailed checks. Losing the marriage didn't hurt nearly as much as losing time with my daughter. Afterward, I poured myself into rebuilding. Financially, emotionally, professionally. I avoided dating, throwing every ounce of energy into work and whatever time I had with Ruby. 2 years later, I heard Linda's relationship with her affair partner had ended. He'd been abusive, and she finally left him. I pitied Ruby for having witnessed that, but I wasn't surprised. A man who'd helped break up a family was unlikely to be dependable. During that period, Linda tried to warm back up to me, friendlier about custody, more cooperative. I suspected she wanted to rekindle something now that her relationship had collapsed, but I had closed that chapter of my life. When I didn't take the bait, she turned hostile again, dragging me back to court for more money. She argued my income had grown, and Ruby deserved more, but the court reviewed everything and dismissed her claim. That defeat, paired with my refusal to reconcile, seemed to fuel her bitterness even further. That's when she doubled down on turning Ruby against me. By her early teens, Ruby had started refusing visits, claiming she was too busy or that she didn't want to be around me because I was mean to her mom. When she did come, she was distant, sometimes outright hostile. She parroted accusations about the past, calling me selfish for not giving her mom more, ignoring that I was already supporting her well beyond the court's requirements. She resisted my affection, kept me at arm's length, her mind clouded by years of manipulation. Still, I never stopped trying. I reminded her that divorce was complicated, that both parents had made mistakes, and that my love for her never wavered. Even as my words were drowned out, I continued providing more than what was legally required. Gifts, school expenses, extra support. When Ruby's 16th birthday came, I wanted to be special. She gave me a short list of things she wanted: clothes, books, a piece of jewelry. I bought all, but went further. Better clothes, more books, pricier jewelry, plus gift cards and money for outings. I spent 3 times what she'd asked for, trying to show her my love. I sent everything with a heartfelt card, but Ruby never acknowledged it. No call, no text, not even a thank you. It was as if none of it mattered. After waiting a week, I called her. No answer. Days went by, and finally she picked up, cold, impatient, asking what I wanted. Her tone stunned me. When I told her that wasn't how to speak to her father, she exploded. Through the phone, she screamed that she wished I were dead, that I was a terrible father, and that her mother's new boyfriend was her real dad. She said she didn't want my gifts, my money, or anything from me. I sat in silence, shattered. My little girl, the one I'd read bedtime stories to, taught to ride a bike, was telling me she wanted me gone from her life. The pain was indescribable, but beneath it, I recognized the truth. This wasn't just teenage anger. This was the result of years of her mother's influence, reshaping her view of me until I was the enemy. When she finished screaming, I simply said, "Noted, sweetheart," and ended the call. I didn't argue, didn't defend myself, but inside I was wrecked. That night, I made the hardest parenting decision of my life. If Ruby wanted me dead, then I would give her exactly that. From then on, I provided only the court-ordered support, nothing more. No surprise gifts, no extra money, no texts, no calls. I withdrew completely. Within 3 weeks, Ruby began reaching out. First hostile, then confused, then worried. Her messages shifted from anger to concern, asking if I was okay, if something had happened. I ignored them all. For over 2 months, I maintained silence. Finally, Ruby left a voicemail that broke through. Her voice was shaky, remorseful. She admitted missing things I used to do, missing our talks, realizing how much I'd given that she'd taken for granted. That's when I called her back. She answered in tears, apologizing. She admitted her mom had filled her head with things that made her hate me. She confessed that when I stopped going above and beyond, she realized how much I'd been sacrificing. She said her mom's boyfriend hadn't contributed half as much as I had. We talked for a long time about the divorce, about my love for her, about respect. I told her that I forgave her, but that cruelty and disrespect wouldn't be tolerated again. She understood. She wanted to start fresh. Slowly, our bond began to heal. She returned to visits. Our conversations grew warmer, and she started recognizing her mother's manipulation for what it was. Through this, I learned that parenting isn't only about giving. It's about boundaries. Sometimes love means stepping back, even when it hurts, to let your child see the truth for themselves. Those months of silence were agonizing, but they saved our relationship. Now Ruby is 17, wiser, more aware, and grateful for what I've done to be in her life. Our relationship is stronger than it's been in years. She learned the difference between someone who plays a parental role and someone who truly is a parent. She learned that words have weight and that respect matters. And I learned that sometimes the most powerful way to teach love is through absence, not presence.